Well, our focus on the show today now, no economy develops without skilled human resources to drive the growth. Hence, Nigeria must prioritize human capital development for its economic growth away from any further recession or impact of the COVID-19. Now, with the impact of COVID-19 biting hard on businesses, job cuts have been the order of the day globally across key sectors. As authorities have taken decisive action to respond to the emerging health threat of COVID-19, business leaders are challenged with navigating their human capital through uncharted territory. This highlights the need to be resilient in a fast-adapting context. Well, joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this and bring in a fresh perspective to this conversation, I have the Director of Strategy, Advocacy and Stakeholders Relations of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Adeyemi Ajayi. Good to have you on the show at this hour.
Good morning. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. Now, starting off the conversation at this point in time, the strategy is to fast adapt to the new norm. Now, for proper utilization of human capital, which has largely been hit by the job cuts, and we've seen soaring unemployment results released by the National Bureau of Statistics due to the COVID-19, to be strategic means to be intentional. Now, we have to focus on a stronger assessment of the impact of intervention from the part of government first and foremost, at federal and at state levels to support the engine of growth. That's SMEs that employ the most.
If you see the trend of things basically now, with the new normal, many businesses are struggling. I mean, that is obvious. And apart from the fact that they are struggling, the economy we just see has really declined in terms of the GDP. Now, that tells you totally there is a shift, a very significant shift, both in the public sector and in the private sector. And what that tells you is there is need for rethinking in order to approach business in a better way. And I will tell you that human capital is one of the main approach that can help organizations to navigate through this situation. And that means we need to have employees that are that have new skill sets, that have new competencies, that can provide values to businesses now. So, I mean, this is the time that human capital has more value than ever before in business.
And for government at this point in time, how timely is it for them to understand that it's not business as usual going back to the state and the federal government at this point in time, looking at the fact that the provision of skill acquisition is necessary, especially at a time when we are looking at emergent sectors of the economy. So many people have to work remotely, so it's now time to have much more training within the ICT space, IT space and fintech and a whole lot more. It's time to take a backseat, have conversations with people that matter, stakeholders, and then chart a new territory in terms of having to deal with new gaps that we are experiencing at this point in time.
Thank you very much. You see that maybe you've observed some states government, they are so proactive. Lagos State, for example, during the pandemic, when there was lockdown rather, Lagos State was very proactive. They trained over 10,000 of their employees, you know, and that tells you that they were on a digitization journey in order to make the public service attractive, efficient, and more effective. And at the federal level also, there is a change in the narratives. Now the federal government are looking for employees with new skill sets. And I'll tell you, last week there was a launch of an epic culture change with the civil service in Abuja. And that tells you that they are very proactive, they are moving with the tide. Now coming to the MSMEs, the small scale businesses, you also see that there's a paradigm shift. Overall, we are all tilting towards adoption of technology to drive business in a positive way. And there have been a lot of trainings, you know, that you can find to support that. So there's been improvement in skills, competencies across board for people.
Nigeria must prioritize human capital development for its economic growth. With the impact of COVID-19 biting hard in businesses, job cuts have been the order of the day globally across key sectors. As public authorities have taken decisive action to respond to the emerging health threat of COVID-19, business leaders are challenged with navigating their human capital through uncharted territory. This highlights the need to be resilient in a fast-adapting context. Well, joining me now in our Lagos studio to bring some fresh perspective to this discussion, I have the Director of Strategy, Advocacy and Stakeholders Relation of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Adeyemi Ajayi. Good to have you on the breakfast show at this hour.
Yeah, good morning.
Now, talking about adapting quite fast to the new norm, we have to deal with emergent sectors. Now, take us through some areas you think government has to be much more intentional and SMEs also have to build their capacity to be able to deliver in today's world.
Okay, thank you very much. With this change, we'll call it disruption, government, they have to be intentional about digitization because that's quite obvious. We have to go the technology way. There's also virtualization because a lot of people are working virtually now, and I can tell you that will continue into the future. So government have to be deliberate about that. There has to be frameworks. There have to be policies around that. And again, government have to look into artificial intelligence, robotics, and also the application of data analytics in so many of its activities, even across its workforce. So a lot of manual works in the government space and service deliveries have to get to the level of technology, applying technology. The same apply to the private sector, the small-scale businesses. They have to upscale in terms of adopting technology, and even they need to now train their workforce with respect to emerging skills that they need. For example, social intelligence is important now, and also the need to adopt digitization, even for the private sector and the MSMEs. That's the best way to go.
And talking about the best way to go to, let's also incorporate the informal sector. At this point in time, value addition is quite critical. What steps do you also expect from that field? It's not business as usual for the regular tailor or hairdresser.
Yeah, they also need to have a shift. That's the truth. They have to learn new things, new skills, new ways of doing the work they do. They also need improvement in what they do. So, I mean, we've seen some of them going out now, learning some other things, technology-wise, to be better in their delivery. So, again, this is a time that people are health conscious, so there has to be a lot of things about how better they can do their businesses. So the artisans need to learn new ways of doing things.
And as they also try to learn new ways, hopefully we have a stronger intervention from government. Access to finance funds is also critical to support this dream of moving both the informal and formal sector forward. Thank you very much for your contribution on the Breakfast Show today. Adeyemi Ajayi.
Thank you.